Before we begin, though, a few housekeeping items. There is a chat window where you can share your comments, thoughts, questions. Please feel free to do so throughout the conversation. We have people who will be going through the messages and answering your questions on the spot, or letting us know so that we will be able to take those up, but right at the end of the session. This is going to be a freewheeling conversation, and we don't want to interrupt the flow in the middle. So let's get started. We've had wildfires ravaging California, floods in Germany, heat waves in Australia, typhoons in Philippines. I mean, I can go on, droughts in East Africa, all just in the last year. I'm not even talking about the last few years. So it's very clear that climate change is not a distant threat. It's here and now. I think it's very visibly apparent. And it's time to take decisive action. I think, and this is something nobody disagrees with. Everybody wants to take action. They know we have to take decisive action. And given the global nature of the problem, it's something that needs collective action at speed, at scale. How do we do this? So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, those of you who have joined us from across the globe. Very exciting to have a global community here, increasingly so. Join us here for the talks today on a very, very relevant topic. I'm Sindhuja. I head Global North Programs at FIDE, and I'm your host for this evening. And it's my great pleasure to have with us Jan Kuenne. Jan is a dear friend, and I will leave the formal introduction to him. But what I will say is this, hearing Jan talk, share his insights or narrate stories from his experience, over the years, have convinced me that Jan has, and this is something I've told him, I have convinced me that Jan has at least 100 years of experience across domains, across topics. And some of those he will share with us today through his explorations with Beckn and open networks, which is what the Beckn and Beyond program is all about. Beckn community explorers sharing their experience, sharing their imaginations and the impact that they've seen on the ground. So without much ado, over to you, Jan, for your background, what keeps you going and what brings you here today.
Thank you, Sindhuja, and hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever across the globe. I'm so happy to be here with you, Sindhuja, and the whole community, because it's a very heart-filled pressure I'm experiencing. And as you were mentioning, Sindhuja, we're experiencing a world which is in a climate crisis, which is not really a climate crisis, to be precise. It's a human mankind crisis. Climate hasn't got a crisis, we've got a crisis. And if we think of Delhi, just at end of May, we had 50+ degrees Celsius in a city with 33 million people living in. Just imagine, this is just crazy. So, and you mentioned the floods. I'm living in the southern part of Germany. We just experienced the last 3 days, really heavy floods in this area. Cyclone season, and taking the top news at the moment, we're gonna cross the 1.5 degrees limit in 2028, and that's for sure. So it's time to move. It's stop talking, getting things done. And that's why I really love the spirit which I experience in India and across the globe, with tool sets which are available to get things done. And basically what we do as Enterprise Development Group, that's my company. Our headquarters is based in Palo Alto, Silicon Valley. I'm based in Germany, and I love to work in India and across the globe. And what we are focusing on is how can we find solution for the most urgent problems. And the most urgent problem, I know climate is not everything, but without the livable climate, everything is nothing. So this seems to be the most urgent problem we have to solve. And therefore, I'm very glad to be here with you, with a community of doers and real bright minds to get things done.
Thank you, Jan. As you rightly said, I mean, this is a large problem. There's no way to overemphasize it. A convoluted problem, so many interconnected actors across the globe, There is no one solution. There is no one organization. I don't think there is any one company or country even that can solve it. This is something that we all need to work together towards. And there is at least, targets staring at us. By 2015, the target for most countries is to achieve net zero emissions, balancing any emissions with equivalent removal efforts and so on and so forth through various measures, be it energy, soil restoration, forest restoration, and so on. But over to you again in terms of, what are your thoughts on how do we provide nature a chance to regenerate before we go into how we get to the digital layer?
Thanks, Sindhuja, for that one. Yeah. So maybe we just take 2 steps back in history. 2 steps back in history and thinking of what have we done with our commons. So when we talk about commons, we talk about air, water, soil. And what did we do as human mankind? Well, we traded these commons for the hope of labor. So we gave away the rivers to factories. We gave away land for doing huge industrial agriculture. We gave away air, the quality of air, to get oil production, fossil fuel burning, and we get energy and to get something done. So this was the trade. We gave away the access to our commons or the quality of our commons in the trade-off for jobs. And did it work out? Well, if we look at the situation we are having here at the moment, well, there's at least a question. Now, taking this one. So we gave commons away in the trade-off for getting jobs, labor, and being part of an economic situation. Now, fast forward. At the same time, we're living now in a digital world. And in this digital world, it's sort of a digital layer which we have all across everything. Like, just think of an ERP system. An ERP system is sort of managing whole industries. If we think of big digital layers we have on like the web, it's there and it's used and we make commerce and business on that. Now, the question is there any possibility to have an access to the digital commons to save the analog world? Not to do the same mistake we did before with the analog commons, and use the digital power to make a change, to make a difference. And this is what brought me to the Beckn protocol, by the way, and the digital layer, because I heard the speech of Nandan Nileekani, that was 2 years ago, something like this, on the TIA Summit, the India Advantage Summit, curated by Jose Jacob Kayayil. And he was presenting the idea of digital commons and how to approach it and how can we have a layer on top of the world. And when we think of what we have to do, it is we have to adopt what is happening around us to the climate. We have to reduce. We have to reduce the emissions. We have to recycle, to use the resources again, and we have to regenerate. And if we boil all these 4 things down, adopt, reduce, recycle, and regenerate, it's all about discover, order, fulfill, and post-fulfill services and products. And this is now the bridge to where we are with the Beckn protocol and the whole community here, because it is a transaction what we are doing. So when we think of what we have to do is adoption. So if we have 50+ degrees in Delhi, what is happening? People are turning on their ACs. While turning on their ACs, there's a heavy load on the grid. Now, if this heavy load on the grid is centralized managed, what will happen? It will break down. And Sindhuja, you were just saying us, well, we did the test, your energy grid went down. This is it, if we want to adapt, we have to find different ways, a decentralized way. If you want to reduce, yes, if you want to reduce emissions, we have to cut out all the waste. So what kind of waste of energy do we have at the moment? Public transport, is that the answer at the moment? No, a lot of people using private transport. So we're admitting more and more and more. So again, if we want to reduce, we have to discover, order, fulfill, post-fulfill. If we think of recycle, again, it's very obvious, you know, we've got waste. Now, how do we turn waste into as feedstock for the future? We have to discover it. We have to order it. We have to fill it, fulfill it. And last but not least, if we want to regenerate, this is, I think, the most important thing what we have to do, not just to be sustainable. Sustainable means we have to be on the same level, but this is not going to work anymore. We ruined the place. We're toast already. Now, what we have to do is to regenerate. Regenerate soil, air, water. Again, it's about discovery, order, fulfill, post-fulfill. So that's where the beauty of the Beckn protocol and the open transaction networks come into play.
Thank you, Jan. I think that gives a good picture as to the current crisis we have on hands, and how can we start looking at a more unified way of tackling that to discover, order, and fulfill, like you laid out. Based on your conversations with doctors across the world or universities, industries, and so on and so forth, I've heard you say that every time somebody shares a problem statement with you, your mind goes Beckn, Beckn, Beckn. So, if you could share with us, what you have seen as use cases, potential use cases, things that are already underway in terms of exploration with open transaction networks or Beckn, use cases around the world, yeah. I think across the Atlantic, in India, Europe, US, I think you've been part of all of those. So if you could share some use cases that you see and your takeaways from those.
Love to, Sindhuja, because it's a very proud story which is behind that one. And the proud story starts in India. So in India, you've got the India stack, or the India development of Aadhaar, UPI, and you name it. So there's a very big and very certain backbone. And in India, you don't have to explain what a UPI is, a unified payment interface, because everybody understands, okay, I've got an identity. If I've got an identity, I can do things. Okay. Now, this is a bit different when you go across the globe. With your experience, you're leapfrogging in India. And so across the globe, it's a bit of a longer story, but it's a beautiful story. And we've got here, and his video is on Damir's video. We've got some starting projects in Croatia. And what do we do there? Well, the idea there is, as I said before, we have to have new ideas how to manage energy grids. So with the energy community in Croatia, in Rijeka, which is headed by the European Digital Innovation Hub by Damir Medved and his team, we are looking into how can we combine an energy cooperative or community via Beckn protocol. So we've got the solar panels someone is producing. We combine this story with a battery storage. Someone's got a battery. Someone wants to use it like a local company and want to use the electricity provided. And that's why we're just at the moment kickstarting with the region of Rijeka and beyond. So this is one of the use cases. I know in India, we've got it already with Sheru and the team, which are already working on that. And there's, we experience some hassles there along the way as well. And we do that all across the globe. Of course, the officials and the administration have to follow that. Now, talking about how to implement that, we have to get the grid providers on board to understand that if we want to adopt, as I explained before, a centralized system to be more of a buffer for really peaks and getting the consumer to a prosumer story, it has to get the grid provider into the boat to understand, oh, this is an added value for us. So this is what we're doing, for example, in Croatia and Rijeka city, together with Damir. Along the same track, what we're working on is, so what if we do some sector coupling? Sector coupling is the magic word at the moment. What is sectors? So we have at the moment the energy sector, we've got the mobility sector, we've got the water sector, we've got whatever sector, and they're all trying to do their stuff and their silos. Now, does that help? Probably not. So what if we can couple the energy sector with the mobility sector? And with EVs, it's more than obvious. So what if we produce in an energy community the electricity for carbon neutral public transportation? So what if we have the school buses running on the energy which was produced by the community? And that's exactly, again, what we are starting to do in the Rijeka region. So this is one of the examples we're working on. Another one is when we think about recycle. So recycling is a very broad issue, a very big one. Probably we should, replace the word recycling with circular economy, because most of the times when we do some recycling, we downgrade the original product. So downgrading is not really the thing to do. So if you have, for example, plastic bottles, you use them once, then you shred them, then you get textile out of it, and then you throw it away. So is it a circular economy? No, it's not. Now let's think of what can we do if we take the circle and do it in an upcycling way. So that's what we're doing, for example, with a very beautiful startup in India, in Bangalore, Denim, the upcycling denim revolution. So what we're doing is we upcycle denims coming from the waste, rebranding them, redoing them, and getting them back onto the market as it is. At the moment, a traditional Levi's takes around 3,500 liters of water to be produced. Just think of that one. And I know the water crisis in Bangalore is big, but how many denims do you have in your store, on your wardrobe? Now take that into liters. And then you throw them after 2 years away. Is there a reason? Is it sensible? No, it's not. So how do we get these products back into the cycle? And now again, the Beckn protocol helps to discover, order, fulfill, post-fulfill, then in a circular market. So building circular marketplaces, let's imagine an ONDC plus, having ONDC plus as the next circle. This could change a lot, I think. So fast fashion is history. Should I go on with examples, Sindhuja?
I think these are good, Jan. I think if you can also, through your example, maybe share with us how you help someone reimagine a certain, say, instance, maybe in circular economy or energy or regenerative agriculture, where they were thinking of a certain way of solving a problem, which is typically, I'll build a platform, I'll build an app, and I'll try to solve this for my supply chain. And if you kind of flip the mindset, showing what Beckn could have done, because you do it so wonderfully in your workshops. I think walking the audience through that will help them understand, how Beckn can kind of be a force multiplier in this change.
Right.
But this is wonderful, guys. What you share.
Yeah. So we're working at the moment together with a big sugar producer, basically the biggest one for North America. And so they start off with saying, okay, we have to do a more regenerative sort of agriculture. How do we solve more organic farming? And then we say, okay, so hang on. So is it about organic farming? But what else has to be solved along the track? Yeah, well, our farmers need access to loans. And these loans could be provided by the state, how they treat their soil. Oh, okay, that's interesting. And yes, but for that one, they need some knowledge. They need some knowledge. Yeah, and by the way, if they have sort of not only sugarcane on their field, they need a market for their extra produce. And wouldn't it be beautiful to have the carbon credits directly provided as a second income source for the farmer. Now, getting this story together then, it calls for a unified language and to connect all these silos into an ecosystem. And this ecosystem can then be provided by the Beckn protocol, because we can order, fulfill, post-fulfill education, farmers' education, directly tailored to the need of the farmers. We can connect, the same story is if the farmers applies this knowledge on the field through sensors, we get the feedback, yes, this field does the right thing. Okay, now if this field does the right thing, why not giving cheaper loans for that? How do we provide loans? Order, discover, order, fulfill, post-fulfill. Now getting to the next layer and saying, okay, how do we get rid of that the big ones like the Walmarts are taking the carbon credits for the work which the farmer does? Well, if the field can say I'm treated well and I am a carbon sink because we use biochar, we can prove it, we can testify it, we have credentials, we can share these credentials. And through this credential sharing, the carbon credits can be traded directly to the farmer without any intermediate. So suddenly, with this little solution of we want to have organic farming, you suddenly open up a whole network of questions, and you can have them all curated in a network of networks, in an open, interoperable way via the Beckn protocol. Well, for this one, of course, it takes a journey. So the owner of the company, it's a family business, which is interesting. He says, whoa, I was just trying to get, organic farming for sugar. And suddenly I'm standing here in front of a huge ecosystem, which I can curate. And that's, of course, a big story. And with this big story, he's now turning to his brother, who's running the operation. So he's the CEO, and the other one is running the operation, says how we should go beyond sugar. And this is, of course, a longer way to get this ecosystem done. But we see already examples on the ground, like you might have seen or heard about the Hasten Foundation with Peter Kovlin, a good dear friend of ours, and Shiba Sen. So what they're doing at the moment, 300 kilometers outside of Bangalore, they're exactly putting these pieces together on a farmer cooperative to get exactly this one done. Not only the direct marketing, which you can do obviously through UNDC, but as well the carbon credits and the education and the way to present their goods and produce beyond the traditional markets. By the way, they're doing it organically and regenerate the earth. So that's one of these bigger examples we can put on the table and say, okay, now this is an ecosystem. What we're talking about, we are talking about a network of networks, not only a single solution. Sindhuja, I'm not sure whether you're still around with us.
I think Sindhuja dropped. So
yeah,
let's
well, that's
move
the
ahead.
energy grid.
I think she lost power at her place. So,
Right.
Jan, do you see any blockers? Now we are talking about this implementation going live or in the process of being implemented across the globe. What are the blockers that you see in different demographics? What are the blockers in US? What are the blockers in Europe or in Asia? And how are they different from each other?
Right. Thanks, Dheeraj, for this question. Well, the blockers, as I said, first, in India, you're used to the digital public infrastructure thinking. So this is a very, very good base ground. And we see the adoption of this kind of thinking across the global south. So through the G20 summit last year, which was happening in India, the digital public infrastructure discussion spreads around the globe, and there's a lot of attention in the southern hemisphere. When we talk about, so there's an openness, like in Brazil, Lula is really enthusiastic about it. So it's going to be more than not an easy story, but an easier story. Talking about the adoption across the globe, like in Northern America, so being in Silicon Valley and probably the headquarter of capitalism. We went. Is it okay if I tell a quick story, Dheeraj?
Sure, go ahead.
Right. So we went to one of the biggest sort of incubators and most well-known incubators in the Silicon Valley. And they invested in our early stage into a company called PayPal and some others on this track, eBay. And so we went there, and most of you probably know Pramod Vamar, the chief architect of the Aadhaar.
Yes.
So together with Pramod, we went there, and we did a talk to the CEO and some of the guys there, and we presented the story of the digital public infrastructure and said, well, this could be the piping to put on top of that one ideas, entrepreneurship, and startups. And he was asking, yes, but what's your end game on that one? And we were asking, what kind of end game? Yeah. Where do you make money with the piping? We said, no, we're not talking about making money on the piping. We're starting to make money on putting solutions on the top of the pipes. But you should do money on the piping. So the result of that one was that thinking beyond platforms and making business as platforms is sort of a mental model which is so deeply branded into the thinking of the capitalistic and the hyper-capitalistic world that it takes a few steps to go beyond that. But, and that's the interesting story on the other side, and probably you've seen that on the posts from Sujit Nair, who's the CEO of the FIDE Foundation, Yale, MIT, Cambridge, the universities in Germany, Munich, Erlangen-Nuremberg, Rijeka, they get interested because we are offering a new approach to economy, an inclusive, equitable economy. And it takes some time to leave the mental model of the platform, but as soon as you do, suddenly you dream about it. And that's exactly what we are seeing in the adoption. So it takes a bit of a while, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, to go beyond this platform thinking. But as soon as you reach that one, you get really, really high attention. So Sindhuja, I think you're back. The energy grid provided you back on the call.
Yeah, I don't know, irony or timely for the topic, but we've been having power fluctuations here all day today, and like you said, Jan, it's absolutely, bang on relevant for today's topic. And, I wish we had solutions, backups, where we are not reliant on just one source, one solution, and we are able to quickly switch to something else. But here we are. And Dheeraj, thanks for filling in when, I disappeared. But glad to be back on here again, Jan. So,
Right.
yeah, I heard you talk about how it is a mental shift and how you have to work firstly. I mean, the biggest challenge is not technology, I think. And we have had so many instances, and Jan, you have seen it. Damir, we have talked to you about it. Andras, you have also seen it. A lot more community members here. You can also see it in all our past conversations where we have had win rooms where people come in to understand what is Beckn and how is Beckn going to be this magic solution? What are all these, what is this toolbox that you have that's going to solve all of these problems magically? And it must be a very complex, piece of technology. It's not. I mean, I think most of you who have experienced it with us have seen that we all get into a room, maybe for a day or two. We call it the win room. You can call it the war room. You can call it whatever you want. You can do it online. And it's basically just a set of 10 API pairs. I'm just taking a moment to go a little bit into Beckn itself. And in what it allows you to do is allow any platform, any app, any browser, any solution, any digital solution, be it based on any software protocol or hardware protocol, which is very relevant when it comes to the space of energy, which has got so many protocols and standards already in place. And people ask us, do you want yet another protocol? What would we do with yet another protocol like Beckn? And the helping them understand that this is going to be the kind of a unifying underlying infrastructure where you don't have to change your platform. You can stick to your standards. All it does is help you talk to all of the other 100 applications who are on their own proprietary technology or standards from other and complying to regulations in their respective countries and all of that. And all this is done through just a set of 10 API pairs, right? 5 API pairs with call and callbacks. And it just takes about a day or two. So what I'm trying to say through this long story short is the tech is the easy part. I think Beckn is the easy part, and it's more the shift in the mental model, being able to move the needle from really, the skepticism to, okay, we understand this. Now, how can we go forward? What should we do next? How do we get the right stakeholders into the room? And how does this benefit the ecosystem as a whole, right? It's not just about what is in it for me, how will my value chain benefit, but you're enabling the whole ecosystem, you're enabling the whole market, it's expanding, it's helping all the players, benefit. So Jan, a little bit more about, where you've shared such insights or where you've seen this happen. And also where maybe today technologies are not in place, but, what could be the future applications of Beckn, which could, be particularly impactful. So.
Right. So
I use this opportunity to speak because I don't know when my power will go again. I'm sorry, audience, but yeah. Over to you, Jan. It's your talk. I should talk less. Yeah.
Thanks, Sindhuja, and welcome back. Yeah, so when I first saw the slides that day from Nandan and later from Sujit, I thought, what is this all about? And after now basically 2 years, I dream about it. I dream about it because it really boils the story down to the 4 basic steps of interaction. And when you ask me, where do I see it? Well, I see Dragan here on the call as well. Dragan comes from Croatia and he's working on smart aqua. So how to manage water? A big, big question. I think Bangalore is running out of water in the next 4 months or something like this. When I was the last time in Bangalore, and that's an easy one to stop that, all the swimming pools and the hotels were closed. And there was already the signal, but a lot more will come. So how do we manage water? And with all these different systems which are in place, with all these proprietary solutions on top of it, well, the only way is to get a common language on that. And this common language will and can be Beckn protocol. And we're going to try that and use cases in Croatia, exactly on the water management. Where else do I see it? Well, there's actually it's a call for action. Is it okay? So there's a dream, there's a vision. So imagine that's how it normally starts. So what if nature would have an avatar, a digital identity? So what if soil, forests, rivers would have a digital identity? You might think of, yeah, what? Yeah, well, so if they have a digital identity, so what if we put on this digital identity a unified digital nature interface? Now, when we think this thought a bit further down the track, so if we allow nature to be part, so the analog world to be part in the digital world with its own identity, what could happen on that one? What kind of new world could we create on that? Yeah, we could give that trees, we could give forests, we could give that rivers, we could give that maybe even air. And with all our technologies we've got at hand, with all these sensors and IoT, we are ready. Now, take this idea of, you know, it takes it maybe a bit further, too far, but in New Zealand, the rivers have the rights since 2017 to go to court when they are polluted. The same I just read in April in Peru, a river went to court. Now, what if the river has got a digital identity, has got a unified digital nature interface, and then together with large language models, this river can stay up to court and say, hey, listen, you up there on my riverside, you polluted me. I don't want to have that. I take you to court right now. Or a field of a farmer says for itself, this farmer was using the best fertilizer I can have for myself. They actually stored CO2 in the ground through me. And I can prove it. Here's the certificate. Here's the credential. Please give him a benefit for that one. So this could be what sort of a broader vision of the future. So if nature gets a digital identity on one hand, and then using all our technology to let the nature speak up and take part in the story. Of course, we need on the other side, not just large language models, which is one side of the story. We need at the same time data pools which are trusted. So we all know that ChatGPT and the others sometimes seem to smoke a lot of dope. And there is sort of in a different world. But if we have certified data layers, lakes, where these language models can work on, be connected via the Beckn protocol to the community, I think this is big. Sindhuja, was that the answer to your question?
It is a very interesting and innovative idea, Ian, whether having the very entities that are impacted because of climate change. We're saying floods in Germany, but if the river actually, like you said, has a digital identity, I think this is again an idea that probably will take time to come into fruition. But the concept of entities having legal rights and an identity, I think you called it the unified digital nature interface. I think very, very interesting and innovative thought, where you're actually able to codify and record over time. So there's even a history maintained about why this has happened. I mean, in India, we've had so many instances recently of sudden landslides, floods, and all of those in the northern part of India. And there is the usual outrage that happens for a while, but eventually it turns out to be some man-made reason. There is a cause and effect. And if we are able to actually record all of this over time because of having an entity and an interface, the details of it is something that could come. But I think that is something that could be very, very powerful, because end of the day, it's data, it's tied to an identity over time and irrefutable, right? So thank you for that really interesting framing. We hadn't thought of it that way. And I think I was also sharing with somebody recently. I mean, given all of what is happening, even in India, very recently, I think in April, there was a regulation, or the Supreme Court actually recognized as part of fundamental rights of citizens, as part of the Constitution, that they have the right to protect themselves from the adverse effects of climate change. I mean, this is the actual phrase and terminology. It's enshrined in the Constitution as part of a couple of articles on fundamental rights for equality as well as right to life. Citizens have a right to protect themselves from the adverse effects of climate change. I think governments all over the globe are recognizing it. There's a lot more to be done. I mean, I see Damir again, I see conversations in India that we are having on various areas, such as, for example, peer-to-peer energy trading. People are willing, technology is available. Like I said, technology is never the problem, right? It's a lot of convincing people, stakeholder alignment, how is it benefiting everybody in the value chain, and most importantly, the policy. Because compared to any other area or sector, which is probably something within your control, I think anything to do with energy, climate change is automatically regulated by the state, and it needs a lot of support, blessing, convening power, etc., of the powers that be. And I would invite you, Jan, I mean, if you could talk about, again, any instances or a couple of thoughts on those front where you've seen where technology has actually, helped nudge policy. And this is a conversation we have had more than once, I think, in more than one workshop. So over to you, Jan.
Right. So yes, so it's part of that is policy. That's one part. And of course, governance is a very important story we have there. But at the same time, we're living in a free world, at least most of us. And most of us live in a world where the economic power of trading and economic success is a driving force. So besides having a very clear eye on rules, regulations, and governance, and I'm happy to have the Green Deal in Europe, and we see the Inflation Reduction Act, which is happening in the States, which is playing along the same lines. And as you were mentioning, it's what you're having at the moment in India, the discussions. We have to think of the economic power of business. And I'm very sure that technology for good is good, but it will take a long, long time. So what we have to think of is how can we put business models on top of that? Because business models will drive the evolution on it. And just the very, very obvious things. In Florida, most of the houses in Florida won't get insured anymore. Okay, so why is that? Of course, because of the flooding. So insurance losses are huge. And so obviously, and Swiss Re, one of the biggest reinsurers, says through climate change, we're going to have something like around 5 point something reduction of GDP globally. So 5 point something reduction of GDP globally is huge. It's a huge amount of money. If you turn it upside down, it's a huge business case. So if we have solutions on the track which helps us to get to the right solutions, there's money in it because they're going to fund it because they don't want to lose it. We just talk about sea level rise. So the sea level rise, everybody knows sea level rises, okay, 10 centimeters, 15 centimeters, whatever. And maybe, and by the way, most of the biggest cities across the globe are sitting on the coastline. And then they say, okay, we just built the pier higher and all good. Now, the problem is the whole infrastructure, like sewage infrastructure, will get flooded inland. So we're not talking about these maybe 10 kilometers inland of which are really going to be flooded by the sea level rise. We are talking about 50 till 100 kilometers flooded through the sewage systems. And it all will collapse. So if we come up with a solution to stop that, there's a business case behind that. And the investors, the big investors in these stories are the insurance companies, are the pension funds. Why the pension funds? Well, just imagine a pension fund. Well, they invest their money because they have to pay out the pensions in 30 years. So it should be reliable business behind that. What is reliable business? Reliable business is green business because this is going to help. And again, we have to do a lot of things at the same time. We have to adopt, we have to reduce, we have to recycle, and we have to regenerate. It's a huge economic space. and to put on that one solutions, get investors running on that. Like there's this investment fund X, from a company doing X. Yeah, well, we all might think whatever we want to do about this guy, but yes, carbon reduction is a huge pledge there. If Microsoft says until 2030, we're carbon negative, 2030, they have to have solutions for that. And they're stating that clearly out to the open public. And if they don't reach that, they can be sued and the shareholders will take out their shares. So they have to provide solution. There's money in it. So what I'm calling for is use the power of the DPI thinking, use the power of Beckn protocol as one of the tool sets on that. Put them on the pipelines on reduce, regenerate, recycle, and adopt, and put business cases on top of that. And then we find the investors for that. Because money is there. We all looking for the next Facebook. Who needs that? I don't think we don't need that.
I think you touched upon a very, very key point, Jan, something that tends to get overlooked in the initial conversations and the excitement, which is funding, which is always top of mind, but also back of mind because people get initially carried away with the ideas sometimes and are ready to, let's start a pilot, let's start a POC. But then when you actually try to figure out, okay, how is this going to work sustainably for all the actors involved? Long term, beyond the pilot, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And the role that funding plays and funders play, I think you brought that out really well. And it plays out very differently, in sectors such as, energy and climate action, where, like you said, surprisingly, why are pension funds investing in solutions or, areas such as this? And, or insurance companies, very surprising, and but actually not surprising if you actually think about it. I think I shared also an example that we are talking to. Again, I'm also going to refer to them as X or Y, but basically looking at building something like a data highway for data sets related to climate. Data is there with multiple entities, and it's actually a way to also a channel for monetization. A forest department, for example, gathers data by actually walking into the forest through analogous means, and they then record it through whatever means, right? Excel, they have a record of it. So they have data. There are ministries which have data, universities, research institutes, think tanks. I mean, there are all of the entities who gather data, have data relevant for insights on climate action, on energy. So we are actually looking at, we have actually developed prototypes on use cases around these. How can, for example, a climate investment fund figure out whether their past investments are actually bearing fruit? Have they invested in the right forest restoration project? I mean, and this is just one of the, 20 or 25 use cases that we could imagine, and we are no experts in any of these domains. We are not deep domain experts, right? We try to help the people from the industry understand Beckn, and then when a bulb lights up, they come back with 100 use cases that we would have never thought of. And then we, work together to figure it out. But this was, one very interesting use case. And other is, again, using the same climate data highway, if I could call it that, or the network, which with all it does is same thing. There are providers of data, people who have data, and there are people who need data. The entities, when I say people, I mean it could be governments, it could be investment funds, it could be research institutes looking to find solutions. They are both the collectors of data as well as consumers of data, because they are doing both, right? There are private corporations who are using data to provide analytics insights to companies. So it's startups, it's government, it's public, it's think tanks, not-for-profits. All of these stakeholders using the same network to come out with insights that were not possible before because of the same silos that you spoke about earlier. They are all in different pockets. There probably does not exist a common, infrastructure or base on which you can just look for data, get it. Business models can be worked out, but use that to drive insights. I think this is just one probably way, a kind of a unifying fabric in which a protocol like Beckn can enable in terms of quick, decisive climate action. But there are a lot more, and all of this still, I'm coming back to the point on funding is still, some of it is probably government funded, sponsored, because it is a problem that the state also has to solve. But real scale happens when the market gets in, when there's private innovation and private involvement, and they are not for profit. So I think great point from you there. I see that we are kind of also nearing the end of time. I think we should go to audience questions now before we conclude.
Maybe one more little thing.
Sure.
There's one more little thing. So we've been talking about this smart city concept for, I think, at least 15 years now. And what happened with these smart city concepts? Always the big tech players moved in, and I said, like this, whatever, IBM or Huawei or you name it, they moved in and they said, well, we're going to solve the whole thing as a smart city. In fact, they were solving their tech story. So they didn't serve for the people. And what they were saying is, we do it all over one platform. And when we first presented the smart city concept based on Beckn protocol, the smart city developers were saying, oh, wow, they're different players then. That's not one fits all, but everybody can participate, and even prosumers can be part of it, and we can include the community into that because we can speak all the same language. It's suddenly opened a lot of new doors. So again, even this burned area of, before it was the smart fridge. So the smart fridge was the no-no in Silicon Valley for a long time. So just imagine a smart fridge, and you work on a smart fridge and everybody say, oh shit. Now it is, you work on smart cities, oh no. But this is one of the golden keys for the smart cities as well. So talking about climate change and adoption, reduction, recycling, and regenerative, here the Beckn protocol and the interoperability of solutions which can be combined very easily and smoothly. That's beautiful. I just wanted to throw that one in because, again, smart city is still a place where a lot of investment is happening. And I know India's got these 100 smart cities investment program running, and having the back information of the DPI thinking on that one, putting solutions on top of that one, it's a huge space.
Thank you, Jan. I think greatly summarized. I think that's a great segue into, if the audience has any questions, you can please raise your hand and we will take it up, or you can type it in chat. I think there was one question that popped up when you were talking about the unique digital nature interface. Did I get that right, Jan? UDNI. I think we should come up with our own cool acronym. Would that give trees more rights? Would that give, I think you spoke more about the example of rivers, but I think a little bit more on the UDNI itself, Jan, and how would that give more rights to entities like trees, rivers, forests, so on?
So the unified digital nature interface would give us the opportunity, as we have with UPI, everybody can transact with it. So, and putting that sort of thinking as a standard, I think it's opening up huge opportunities. Of course, we have to, it's still a thought. It's not done yet. But I'm sure we've got the unified energy interface there. We've got the unified payment interface. Why not a unified digital nature interface? And I think this can change a whole lot of things. And we've got in our network Mylin Fung. Mylin Fung is part of the people-centered internet, and they are connected with Windsurf. Windsurf is one of the founders of the internet. And when they heard about this kind of thinking, they said, oh, we can make a standard out of that. So the first doors are starting to open. And I think there's a hand by Dinesh.
Hey, hi. This is Dinesh Vairamani. I'm from Unboxing Community. We are developing a community channel for electric and electronic products. That is, we invite, just give a minute to give a small introduction to take it up because we joined Beckn or we want to join Beckn because of the concept which we can able to merge around and take it forward. So what we are building is a community channel where we can onboard various level of engineers from electric and electronic background and we collect only data points from them. These data points are related to product performance, product quality, and also the material sustainability and all these various level of research data around that. And we validate with another engineers in the same platform. And using this data, we are connecting to the marketplace where customers can come and identify which is the right product for their right usage or which product can suffice their objective need or which is the best quality or performance product in the market, they can able to decide and purchase the product. So this is what we are trying to do, and we are trying to see that how we can able to be part of this Beckn product and how we can able to establish ourselves in other countries too is what we are trying to see ourselves in that.
Right, and if you add on that one, the carbon footprint on the products as a digital credit, or credentials, then it opens up a new space on that one and saying, okay, with this product, you reduce the carbon footprint by X, Y, Z, and having that certified by an outside certification, you're certainly gonna enter a new market for that one. Like we know we've got these new regulations coming in the European Union on the percentage of circular economy products being in part like in fast fashion and reduce the fast fashion. Same we have in a lot of other places. So I'm working together with BMW now for over 30 years, and they've got very, very clear carbon footprint requirements for the products, whatever you produce. And of course, it's going to be getting down these carbon footprints. So if you can provide in your products and your certification the carbon footprint along that line, you're opening up a new business case. So yeah, great.
Thank you, Dinesh. We had a question on chat. Yeah, and I'll read it out. How to make economics work in DPI thinking, this digital public infrastructure thinking, especially when designing and developing for so many different requirements from stakeholders.
So I think it's a twofold answer. One is to get the digital public infrastructure sort of started, it needs a bigger effort of at least a community or a governance sort of site, or you've got a very big corporate which is interested to do so, to provide the piping and to put of that one the solutions. So the solutions for itself, I think, which are put on the piping, this is sort of, yeah, it's manageable in the business case. But the one with the infrastructure piping that we all understand the same under in the communication with each other takes a bit of a longer story. And I think it's a good example how ONDC was kicked off. So it was not a single person who started ONDC. It was sort of a coming together of big players and saying, okay, let's do that together. So to get this momentum, I think we have to look for that. And saying at the same time, we have these players like big cities. They need solutions for their questions: traffic, water, energy. So these are the obvious ones to start there and getting the piping, the solutions of that. On top of that, I think it's a classical business canvas story.
Thank you, Jan. If I could just add a little bit more to that. in general, I mean, when it comes to DPI thinking, and we've seen examples in India, we're having the same conversations outside in various sectors. Jan spoke about ONDC, which is in commerce. We have it in mobility. There are two parts to it. I mean, having a digital public infrastructure that enables all of these digital economies help both, right? If you get down to hard economics, it helps both increase revenue for all the players. It's not about, oh, you have an open network for mobility, so is Uber's business going down? No. It's basically increasing the market itself, right? If the market is a small pie today, it's increasing the pie for not just Uber, it's also increasing it for other players who were so far not able to get onto any kind of a digital network. So it's more for all. It's not about it's going to reduce something for an incumbent, be it big or small. So it's a story which is more a market expansion story. That's what a DPI enables, right? So that's on the revenue side. What else comes under profitability or making the economics work is actually the power of DPI, which is it reduces having a network infrastructure like layer underneath, reduces all the costs that are associated with the frictions that come with trying to scale up. Right today, and this is a favorite analogy, at least my favorite analogy. Today, everybody thinks of digital solutions like, I mean, imagine if I want to go to my friend's house and so do 5 other friends, they all build individual roads to the friend's house, right? A, B, C, D, E is building a road to F, and we have like 6 roads to get to the same place. No, that's not what we do, right? I mean, it probably sounds very simplistic because it's something we've taken for granted. Just like you have a common road and everybody's able to access it, and if it goes in, the cost of transport goes further down. If all of us use the public transport to get to that friend's place over that road, which is a common infrastructure, that's precisely what having a DPI as a digital infrastructure as base lets you do. It reduces the cost of trust, access, discovery, coordination, everything that's associated with scaling up. If you have to look at it in terms of digital, there are probably 100 digital solutions out there in every sector, 100 being built every day. Without stopping any of that innovation, if there is a way to bring all of this together, make them talk to each other, and reduce the cost of this one-to-one integrations that will come in, right? Literally, when you actually get down to the nuts and bolts of implementing something, it immediately goes down to, okay, I have this solution. How does this fit with that solution? Okay, now I have to sit and figure out how to integrate the two. All of that goes down. I mean, and this is not something that will start from day one. I mean, you have to kind of believe that this works. We've shown that it works in every sector that you get into. It comes with scale. More the scale, lower the costs. So the initial cohorts have to believe, jump in, prove the concept, and proceed, and you will see that it is, which is what is happening actually with ONDC as well as with Namayatri, the examples that are kind of at scale today. But we've proven through research and through our own economic models that this works in any use case that you pick up, because otherwise there is no conversation. The first conversation also does not make sense, right? So this is something that does not have a universal answer in terms of how exactly it will work for per sector, but it is broadly, from a principles perspective, it reduces the cost of trust, access, coordination, and basically the frictions when it comes to scaling up, and increases the market when it comes to the revenue side. So I just wanted to add that bit because typically we get asked this question in terms of, oh, we are reducing the market for Amazon through ONDC. No, I think Amazon gets more customers and more revenue, and the Amazon logistics business itself is part of ONDC. An analogy to every other sector similar.
Thank you, Sindhuja, for that one, and putting on top of that one. And if we get that as solutions which are sustainable, which are regenerative, which are recycling, I love it. Because making more products which are not sustainable is going to probably not help the world. So yes, absolutely. It's putting a second layer on top of that. And adding on that one, I see in my conversation I'm having with big corporates that they understand what's behind that they understand that this open networks can open new opportunities in totally disruptive new markets. And we are in very, very early stage discussions about recycling here and circular economy. And as we all know, we've got a lot of urban mines where we all throw our smartphones at. We all know where we throw our electronics away. Instead of digging them out somewhere in Africa or in Australia or somewhere, why not digging it in our urban mines and getting them back into the circle? And the big ones are moving on it as an open transaction network, because you can't solve it on a one single platform. You have to have it, because it's very diverse, you have to have it on a big scale. So yeah, it's a good signal as well to see the big ones are moving in this direction as well.
I think that's a great way to kind of recap what all we have, what the insights that you've shared in this conversation. Yeah, I think my favorite, I'll pick my 3, 4, and you can also chip in if you feel I've missed out something that's your personal favorite. But your thoughts on looking at framing this as adapt, reduce, recycle, and regenerate. I think people don't normally talk about regenerate. How do you recycle something that doesn't exist? So regenerate. So that I love that framing, and the whole point, which sounds very common sense but not done enough, is collaborate effectively with all stakeholders, bring them all together. Tech is one layer, but policy, funding, we discussed all of that. I think that's something that's supremely critical, and the work that you do, Jan, as part of what you do for Beckn in terms of taking the idea, changing mindsets, it's amazing. And I think the one thing that was something really innovative is the unified digital nature interface. Think of something like an Aadhaar or a unique digital identity for every natural entity out there. I think that's something that's a lot of food for thought. Maybe the bright minds in the call can think through how to solutionize that. I think these are my top 3 in terms of takeaways and recall. Thank you so much, Jan, for your time today. I'm kind of wrapping it up here. I think we're 10 minutes over time, but I personally enjoyed the conversation a whole lot. I hope you did as well, and I hope the audience did as well. I hope to see more questions or comments from the audience post this in our posts. Thank you so much, Jan. Looking forward to carrying on these conversations offline with you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sindhuja. Thank you, Dheeraj, for setting that up. And thank you, community, being here. And it's lovely to see my friends here as well, coming from Croatia and Slovenia and across the globe. And India, I love it. It's great to have you here. And I look forward to the solutions which are needed to come. Because as I said, we're not living in a climate crisis. We're living in a crisis for human mankind. Climate doesn't have a crisis. They will survive. The climate will survive, but we won't. So we have to move now. And thank you for this beautiful tool set.
Thank you. Thank you, Jan.
Take care, my friends. Bye.